Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Welcome back to r/ProRevenge, where in this episode, you're gonna hear 3 revenge stories. The first story, a trashy neighbor moves into OP's neighborhood and causes a ton of trouble. The second story, OP's group of friends get revenge on a high schooler. And we'll finish up with a neighbor who makes a mistake by threatening OP. My friends, I do hope you enjoy the stories today and hit that subscribe button for future revenge stories. If you're not subscribed, let's dive in. This happened when I was around 12 or 13 years old, so the details might be a little skewed. Most of my childhood, the house right next to ours had been condemned and abandoned. The property owners were willing to sell the land for $200. That's how bad it was. Eventually somebody bought it and threw a new home on it to replace the condemned home. Soon a nice old man moved in next door, and we didn't pay close attention because he kept to himself. That was until his daughter moved in with him. Soon our quiet little neighborhood turned into an episode of white trash in trouble. The daughter would fight with her spouse about every little thing, and keep my family, along with our neighbors, up half the night. Their kids were the worst part of it all. We never knew how many kids lived in that house because so many different children and adults were in and out all the time. Me and my siblings tried to become friends with them, because there are not too many kids around our age in the town. We ended up being more of their babysitters than just a friendly neighbor kid. They would come over to our house and each of my siblings had a group of 3 to 4 kids to watch over. These kids would walk in uninvited to our house. They would often steal toys and games from our rooms. They would either take it for themselves or throw it in the backyard river. They would also steal all the fruit in the basket that my mom left out for us. My mom did not kick them out immediately because she never wanted to deny a kid food if they need it. My mom confronted the parents about their behavior, and their 3-year-old son called my mom a bitch. Their parents refused to apologize for that behavior, saying stuff like, if you loved it so much, you wouldn't have let them take it, or don't parent my kid. One thing they would specifically do with me is they pulled my hair all the time. So, I'm a tomboy, and they would just call me a boy in a wig because girls can't play with skateboards, girls can't play with ninja action figures, or any other gender stereotype. One of their heavier children stole my skateboard and jumped on it, breaking it in half. They then said I shouldn't have been playing with one anyway. There are plenty of more examples, but I think you get the point. So, the neighbors decided that because our house was nicer, that they had permission to run an electrical line from our backyard plugs to their house. Which in itself is a bad thing, but they decided to run off our electricity and shoot our bill to triple the cost. Now, we were lower middle class, below poverty level, so we couldn't afford that kind of bill. My parents were awfully surprised to see an $800 bill come in the mail. Eventually, a person from our electric company came to our house to see what was happening. They found an extension cord running to their house. They simply unplug it and then warned the neighbors of legal reasons of why they can't do that. My mom politely but sternly went to the neighbors that this was not okay. The neighbor had a small adult tantrum about it and cussed my mom out, but eventually came back into her home. My mom was obviously not pleased with their behavior, but tried not to escalate the situation any further. Our neighbors tried 1 or 2 more times to run the line from our house to theirs. They would move it at night so we wouldn't see them move it. Each time when we unplugged it, they would cuss us out and send their kids over to destroy something in our home. Eventually, Mom straight up told them that if they come on our property again, she would call the police and press charges. We could still be friends with their kids, but they were not allowed on our land. So they decided, because we won't let them use our electricity, that the next best option was to steal our dog from the backyard, and claim that our dog attacked her kids. I'm guessing because our dog liked to rip her tags off a lot, that the neighbors said she was a stray. My neighbor falsely made reports that my dog attacked them. The pound came and took our puppy away. By the time my brothers and I got home, she was already gone. We assumed she ran off to our grandmother's who lived down the street, and when my parents came home, they about lost it, learning that our dog was missing. After 2 days, we found her at the dog pound. The officer said it was obvious that our dog didn't hurt their kids, but they still had to take her in for evaluation. My parents had to spend $200 to get her out. The pound told us why the dog was taken, and my mom said enough was enough. So now, the revenge. When my mom got home, she sent my little brother over to their house to play with their kids. He was still friends with some of them at the time. My brother became a little spy that day. His job was to look around their house and report anything that could be suspicious. We learned from him that they were sleeping 3 kids to a twin bed. Their entire house was cramped and dirty, and the old man that lived there was hardly home because he couldn't stand his adult daughter. All around, the kids were being neglected. With the information my brother gathered, my mom called CPS on the home. Within the month, all the kids minus 1, who the old man cared for, were taken from the home. The mother of the children started to fight with the old man on everything. Because her kids were no longer there as a distraction, the old man was to be her next victim. The old man was eventually fed up and kicked her out of the home. All that was left in the home was the old man and the grandson he was fostering. They are both very kind and amazing neighbors. My friends, there's one thing I've learned from reading these revenge stories, and that's never, ever, ever mess with anybody's pets. Falsely accusing OP's dog of attacking them to get their dog impounded after being denied the ability to leech electricity is absolutely absurd. Guys, I do feel bad for those kids though. But what do you guys think? Was the revenge fair, or did OP's mom cross a line by having the kids taken away? So, back in high school, which was a long time ago, most of the neighborhood kids worked at a local pizza place. This was great because we were all friends that could hang out after the place closed for the night. In the summer, this meant 11 p.m., so we'd have great adventures during these nights. It also meant that we were all close and would do anything for each other. One of the girls that worked with us was a cheerleader for the high school. She was very pretty and very social and nice to everybody. She was also very religious and did not date anybody until she was 17. Needless to say, she hadn't been with a guy in any way. Prom came around and one of the football players asked her out. She was super excited, but confided in us that he was a big-time player that scared her. She was able to round up a group to make it a group date. The next day, she came to work and instantly we knew something was wrong. She was flat and she didn't smile. She didn't come play games that night and she just went home. After about a week, we found out what happened. So after the dance, the limo took everybody home and they were the last ones to be dropped off. Her parents were out late that night and her sister was with a friend, so she was home alone. The boy invites himself in and immediately starts kissing her and grabbing her. We never got much on the details, but as we understood it, he got her pants off and he ignored her pleas to stop. Thankfully, her parents got home and he quickly got dressed and left before they got into the house. After this was learned by her best friend, they encouraged her to tell her parents. She did, and they approached the police. The police investigated it, but after interviewing the boy, he claimed it was all her. He told them she said it was consensual, and she told him to leave. Now, I knew this girl for 3 years. We believed her, and when nothing happened, we knew it was time to exact some revenge for her. Now, I'll be honest, our group was mostly computer nerds, D&D guys, and some good car mechanics. We didn't carry the same social prowess that this boy did in the school with his group of friends. That said, he wasn't really well liked. He was just a strong personality that made those around him follow him. We went over many ideas on how to get him back. Physical violence was almost the easiest way out, but we knew it would put targets on our back and make it easy for him to make up a reason not related to the truth. Then, one person in our group had an idea that we went with. The boy's parents were big into church, and he was a church-going boy himself. Everybody knew that was a sham though. His house was on a busy road in town that led to the church. His parents had a well-manicured lawn, flower gardens, and it was on a slight uphill from the road. Perfect billboard for our message. It just so happened that we knew he and his family would be out of town one weekend until late Saturday night. So Friday night, we all went to work. We got 3 gas cans, and on this well-manicured lawn, in large letters probably 5 feet tall, we wrote, "John is a rapist." Knowing it would take a day for the grass to completely die, we knew it would be prime for Sunday morning. Church starts on Sunday at 9 a.m., and by 9 a.m., the grass was dead and yellow, and it stood out like a sign to the city. Most of the town had driven by it, and it was being talked about at church. By 9:30, the dad had covered the lawn with a tarp, and he had the lawn replaced early next week, but the damage had been done. Here's where the story took a twist that we didn't see coming. So the next day, the word got around quickly at school about what happened. He wasn't there either. In fact, he didn't come back. That day, 2 girls went to the counselor's office and reported that he had done the same to them. He was 17 at the time and wasn't charged as an adult, but he was put into detention and he never came back to school. I never quite heard what happened to him again. Our one friend was really upset at us initially, although we never admitted to doing it, but she knew it was us. She knew that we would be white knights to her defense. A few weeks later, after everything shook out, she started to become herself again and told her friend that she was glad that he was caught and glad that he was outed. So that's my story on how we took revenge on the city's big shot football player. Now that, my friends, is a creative revenge. I agree that beating the crap out of the guy would have been super satisfying, but what they chose to do absolutely destroyed what reputation he had, and oh my goodness. Being in a small town where gossip travels fast and reputation can be tarnished, he'd have to leave town. He he would almost have to leave town and start life fresh somewhere else. So to me, this kind of borders on nuclear revenge because they technically did destroy his life, but he deserved it. About a month ago, one of my friends came over to hang out. We were having a good time, but he looked nervous to the point that it was killing me. I had to ask what was bothering him, and that's where my life got turned around. So he showed me a Facebook post from my upstairs neighbor. We live in an apartment that stated that she was gonna break into my apartment and break the living crap out of all of our electronics because we were too loud. One of the major complaints I have about this apartment complex is that the walls between the apartments on the same level are like steel. My neighbors can be throwing a party and I would have no idea. However, the ceiling is paper thin and you can hear conversations verbatim. When we first moved in, they constantly commented on hearing our conversations and how they know what TV shows we watched. At first, it was kind of laughable, but the comments turned into complaints. My husband told the male neighbor that there's nothing he can do about it at all except to move out. Up until last month, we haven't heard too much. The Facebook post was absolutely shocking, and I was pissed. If this woman publicly threatened my property, what else is she capable of doing? I confronted the situation and told her to take down the post, and she said some nasty things to me, and I told her that my request was simple. You should not go on social media to deal with your issues, and you need to direct your concern to the person directly involved. Anyway, my husband's aunt is a lawyer. She provides us help with legal situations if necessary, and has been a big help. Over Christmas break, I was talking to her about the situation and explained how I didn't feel safe. The woman has a history of drug abuse and violence that I don't trust. In addition, I'm currently 7 weeks pregnant and want to protect myself and the baby. My lawyer then pointed out that because of my profession as a public official, that this threat and any future aggression towards me is a Class 3 felony in my state that would result in 2 to 5 years in prison if convicted. I was absolutely shocked that I would qualify under the law's specific protection, and my lawyer suggested that she would write a letter detailing possible legal action if this woman decides to do anything against me. So the letter was delivered today. I heard a lot of screaming from upstairs, and I'm guessing that she called her husband to complain about me. I haven't heard from her since. Well, that's a lesson learned, my friends. Don't go making threats to anybody at all, because you never know if they're a public official. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /ProRevenge. Guys, if you enjoyed the stories today, do hit that like button. And if you missed the last episode of our /ProRevenge, a girl torments OP and he comes back years later and he makes her regret it. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you. I really do. I mean it.